It's another week ahead here on Sportswire Radio, and it's a big day, especially if you're here in the United States and for whatever reason you haven't paid Uncle Sam here. Well, if you have or haven't paid Uncle Sam, make sure you tune in for this one because this one is going to be a real live one because we are resuming once again talking about all things related to Colory Championship Wrestling, or as I like to refer to them as Colory Community Wrestling. And our guest here tonight is at the top. He's at the top of the food chain, and he just celebrated a really special day that took place in his career. And I'll tell you what it was that he's celebrating. He's celebrating here tonight. Although, albeit could be for a short term, he's celebrating as champion because he's got an opponent who was a former world champion on the horizon coming up next weekend. And he's also still got to deal with the man he took the World Underground Championship from, because not only did he challenge him to a match coming up here, but the champion is still going on about how he wants it sooner. And we're going to talk about all of that here and some. Plus, whatever the champion wants to say, and I've got something that I'm going to present to him that he doesn't even know about. Plus, I've got a few announcements related to CCW, which we're going to get to here for sure throughout the next hour on Sportswire Radio. But ladies and gentlemen, he had said it when he was here on Sportswire Radio, that if he didn't win his first world championship, that, well, we might be having a different show with him. But he pulled it off. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him that celebratory introduction that he's waiting for, the world's waiting for, I've been waiting for because, well, it's been a while since we've had him back on, and now it's back to giving CCW the coverage that they are a part of here because, after all, they're the company that started the All Wrestling Matters hashtag, which we've adopted here on Sportswire Radio. So let's introduce our champion and give him that championship-like introduction that he deserves here on a Monday Night Live on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. So with that, wait for it, further ado here on the Sports Report, #1 global sports show, the reigning, defending, new CCW World Underground Champion. His name is champ is here. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much.
How are you? And obviously, congratulations. And I know there's a lot to get to here, but I guess I'll ask it to you because I know you've been the champion now for a couple of weeks, but this is the first time that you're here since, well, you've claimed that world championship, and not only the World Underground Championship from Prince Dagan, but also the first world championship of your 20-year career, which is kind of hard to fathom. We spoke about this here when you got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you talked about basically your career being on the line, but I'm going to ask it to you formally since the first time we've had you here since you won the World Underground title at Miners Mania 3. So, Jam Dog, what does it feel now to be the CCW World Underground Champion and win the first world championship of your decorated career?
Absolutely incredible, to be honest. It's one of those ones where I didn't come into the business with the mindset of I want to become a heavyweight champion. I want to become a heavyweight champion. I came in just desperate to be part of the business. So to go from having that mindset to go, you know what? I'd really like to be a heavyweight champion. I'd really like to be a heavyweight champion. And then you realise that's been 20 years. We're, like I'm.
Where'd the
That's
time go, right? Where did the
yeah.
time go? 20
Where
years.
did the
It's
time
crazy.
go? Excuse me. I'm just recovering from illness.
Oh,
So I do
I hope you feel
apologise.
better. Everybody seems to be sick lately. It's like I don't know
Oh,
what's going
jeez.
on. It's crazy. It's here in New York, the weather today it's like summer. Yet 2 days ago I was in a coat in Manhattan, and 3 days from now it's supposed to be a rainstorm. You never know these days in the world. I tell everybody that I just keep everything in the closet. Although for me it looks like I'm basically in the closet every day. Just a joke. It was just clothing, attire, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing,
Yeah.
nothing else if you're men. So just want to put that out there. Clothing, attire. It was a joke. I'm trying stand-up comedy. It's not working out these days. But hope you feel better.
No. See, we're in Glasgow. We're the same. So I went to drop my daughter off at nursery today, and it was sunny, nice and bright. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't even need to give her a jacket. And by the time we got around the corner, it was pouring with rain,
There you
like
go. Yep.
torrential. By the time I dropped her off and got home, got to the doorstep and looked up, sunny again. So and it's been like that. It's been like that for the last 2 or 3 days here in Glasgow. So just like most folk around here, the weather's not sure
Yeah,
what it
at
wants to
this
do.
point, it is what it is. But it was an emotional night at Miners Mania 3. Obviously, we didn't know about your career, but you had family there. You had so many of the CCW faithful there. I mean, watching the match, and you could just hear the crowd. And we know CCW crowds are obviously the greatest. We have a free show coming up this weekend. We have the big show which we're going to get to, which you basically referred to me and your opponents actually
Oh
most
yes.
frequent appearance on Sportswire Radio. I mean,
Oh yes.
one for the ages. We'll definitely get to that, but it was so emotional for so many reasons, but also in the fact that you dethroned the man that has been up to this point the greatest CCW World Underground Champion, and Prince Dagan.
Oh
So
yeah.
all those things, I mean, it really was, I think, one of the most emotional nights for anybody to have won the World Underground title, and especially because it was you who did it, who so many people have been behind you, believed in you. You have been the one guy throughout this time that Dagan's been champion that you've been going toe to toe with him, and you haven't given up. You've certainly, never counted yourself out, and you kept going, and it led to the moment on March 29th at Miners Mania 3, the biggest show in CCW history. And despite all the things that happened leading up to it, the stuff that happened with venues and everything else, you did it. And, it's still got to be an emotional moment.
Quite possibly the most emotional moment of my career. My partner did say to me, she was like, "I'm surprised you don't have a tear or you're not crying or And I was like, That's not who I am. Like the day my daughter was born, I was smiling, I was happy, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you would have cried," and I was like, "No, I went into the toilet and had a wee cry of joy to myself." And it was kind of the same there. We went backstage and sat down, and I had a few minutes, and it was weird. When I sat down, I had the belt beside me, a can of Monster Energy drink, and I had a wee sip on that. And by the time I stood up to get ready to get changed, the ring was down, and everyone was getting ready to go. So in my mind, it felt like I was only sitting there for 2 or 3 minutes. I could be sitting in that corner for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. So yeah, it was emotional. It was surreal. Having my family there was great because it was a case of right. Are they here to see my last match, or are they there to see me win a heavyweight championship for the first time in my again 20-year career? So
That's
yeah,
crazy. It's crazy. 20 years.
so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it went, as you can imagine. But I came to terms. I came to peace with if this is it. This is how I want to go out and go out. I want to go out and talk in front of a sold out live CCW crowd, biggest show of the year, family in attendance. If that's how it's going to go, that's how it's going to go. Thankfully, that's not the way it turned.
Let me ask you this tonight. I want to say hello to some people. Obviously, some friends around the world have obviously wanted to say a few words. We'll definitely get to people. But as the match is over and you obviously embrace your partner, your daughter, but then your mother, we see your mother that you embrace and you give her the belt. What was that like for you to be able to do? I'm sure that. God, jump in.
Actually, that wasn't my mother.
Who was
Do you
that
know
then?
who? Do you know who mother that was? That embraced with the
Oh,
belt.
Mr.
That was Alfie Nerd's mother. That was Donna. My mother, she was proud. She's not seen the match yet, because she says, "Oh, I can't bear to watch it. Just send me the pictures. Just send me the pictures."
Okay,
But no,
talk to me then about putting the belt on Alfie Nerd's mother. We know everything that's going on, and obviously
yeah,
Mr. Nerd's father that was no longer with us, and obviously the whole show, everybody, that show was for him, and
yeah.
that was an emotional night in itself for that. So just talk to me about why do that then.
To have a show where Derek was not at ringside, um, is strange. This is obviously the first show. He passed away. What was it, a week, maybe 2 weeks
I
beforehand,
think it
and
was, I want to say a week and a half, about a week and a
week
half.
and a half. It was tough on everyone, but everyone pulled together. Done some nice stuff for Nerds, and done some nice stuff for his mother as well. And I thought to myself, they're not just fans that turn up to the shows. They're not just Nerds parents. They're part of the CCW. Like James Barris put it best. You've got the WWE universe and whatever else everyone wants to call their fans. They call them the CCW family. That's not just the wrestlers, the staff. That's the fans. That's everyone that
Saying
takes the
all the time,
time.
it's Colory
Yeah,
community wrestling. CCW goes out there and goes into the community, raises money.
yeah.
We're putting a free show on this weekend. We have coming out wrestling coming up
Madness.
here. I mean, we have a lot of different things. We're not just a wrestling promotion here, despite
Exactly.
what you may say from the peanut gallery or the chatterboxes out there. But the facts are is that CCW does things that goes above and beyond its means and its capacity. And I think that moment was still an emotional one. And obviously, you winning for the first time was an emotional moment. And let me ask you then, everything that has been so far as champion, has it lived up to what you've dreamed about in being a world champion for the first time?
I would say so, yeah. I would say so because, again, a long time ago, I just accepted, okay, my goal was to get into wrestling, my goal was to be a part of wrestling. And again, I got to that point where, especially when I came to CCW, I was sitting around, I was watching the matches, I was watching the guys that were fighting for
Yeah,
the
you spoke about that
heavyweight
before.
championship.
I think James
And
even spoke about it a few years ago when he came
yeah,
on. I'm talking about you the first time. This was like, talk about a couple years ago now.
yeah, like I was just happy to be there. And then as time went on and I was watching these guys, I was like, you know what? I think I can hang with these guys. I think I can go in there. I think I can give these guys a run for their money. So that's when I thought to myself, right, let's go for it. Let's really commit to this. And I was happy to do it the proper way. I was happy just to go in and challenge the champion. Genius of the Ring was my first proper chance the last year. And then when Genius of the Ring ended with Prince Dagon and how he acted, how he, as I said before, he screwed Walker, but he also screwed the fans out of a fantastic main event. It was at that moment in time when I watched that footage back, I thought to myself, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I'm the one that dethrones Prince Dagon. And here we are.
Well, you certainly were resilient. I'll say that much. There was no question that, what you went through to get the championship, and even during the match, which we'll talk about here shortly. And if you're here for the first time, I would hope that you follow CCW in a number of different ways. You can do that certainly on Facebook, and the CCW group has just reached 5,000 followers. So I want to say thank you, everybody on Facebook, for continuing to support. Also, Instagram, Colory Championship Wrestling is out there as well. You can check them out at Colory Championship _wrestling. You can check them out on Twitter, CCW UKNE, all caps locks. YouTube, CCW UK Northeast. Also, Patreon. Please support CCW through there. Shout out to DJB. DJB is doing a phenomenal job out there. He's been running all the social medias up there. So whether you see shows on Facebook, he helps out with Dagan shows. He helps out with Ronnie Thatcher, obviously. Another one, Bites the Dust, and Taylor shows. I mean, all the great shows that you see on CCW's channels, especially, are run through DJB. And I want to say thank you for all he does. And certainly,
Yep,
let me say hello to
legend.
some people. Want to say hello to one of our companies out there in the great state of Massachusetts here, Taxachusetts, they used to call it once upon a time. But that's a different conversation for a different time, because maybe we should still be under the UK control, because obviously we love UK wrestling on Sportswire. But hey, just trying to be stand-up comic. But want to say hello to our friends out there in New Underground Wrestling. They have a slew of other hardcore wrestlers out there, and Mr. Jam Dog just wrestled a hardcore match, you might want to say, where some toy figures and other things were actually broken on a table. Not through him, thankfully, but actually his opponent, Mr. Dagan, who lost that championship. But they want to say hello, Tom and Jam Dog. We love our friends over at NEW. They had a great show of their own right this past Saturday. They had almost 1,900 subscribers on YouTube now, so thank you for them tuning in. Obviously, want to say hello to Ethan. Ethan's got a couple of different things he wants to say. Because I was there at Miners Mania. It was absolutely incredible. What a match, Jam. Credits to Dagan as well. And you even offered a handshake to Mr. Dagan, and Mr. Dagan refused. And then Mr. Dagan turned around right away and invoked his rematch clause. Now, we knew that this match was supposed to have happened already, a death match, but you've kind of countered in your own way, but Mr. Dagan has also kind of countered in his own way. You guys have kind of had a back and forth there. We'll come to that, but let me ask you this: when it came to you offering a handshake to Dagan and Dagan refusing, just talk about that, because in some ways it was a great match. What you guys put yourself through and the resiliency of both of you guys. You thought you put him away many times. He thought he had you. But yet there could have been that moment of respect, and there wasn't. I mean, how'd that make you feel?
The thing is about me is I love competition. I love professional wrestling. It's why I spent so much time, my entire adult life, being a part of this business. Is because I love it. Sure. If someone gives me a good fight, I'm willing to shake their hand. Yeah,
we saw you and Cheesy. Listen, when you eliminated him in the Rumble, I mean, you know, there was that level of respect, both of you guys, and it was a great match. And I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen, for a minute, just that handshake. Hey, all right, next time. I got you next time. But it wasn't that. It wasn't.
No. As I said, I offered the handshake. Dagon, like, folk can say, yeah, but he had interference, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Regardless of that, even if Adrian Black or Lilith had not interfered in that match, I was in for a fight. Dagon's tough as nails. I dropped him through that table, as we're saying earlier on, with all the fun stuff on top of it, and he sits right back up. The guy is tough as nails.
When you put him through the table, when all those, assorted toys and figurines were, broken, you're like, okay, most men would have just been down for about 150, and he got up, and time and time again throughout the match, he kept coming. He just, I think there was another spot before you eventually I think, got up to 10 before he did. It looked like there was no way that he was going to get up. And I think, like you said, he stood right back up. It was just, his own resiliency. And that's why, as he correctly stated before you won the belt, he was, and I've said it here on this platform, when he came back for the first time in nearly 2 years before this match, that he was the greatest world underground champion. No question about it. And, he showed that, but I think we would have liked to have seen that moment of just a handshake.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it as well. But, each to their own. Who knows? We meet down the line. We have another fun match. Win, lose, draw. Maybe I'll offer him the handshake again. Maybe he would have smartened up to realise what I'm all about, which is, again, competition. So, to him, I think he thinks a lot of things in this business all relates down to having to be the best, having to stand on top of the mountain, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's all well and good. But if you're not willing to put the work, effort, dedication in, what's the point in being at the top? So the only way to be better, competition. I came to CCW. I wanted the best there was. I've got to take on the Dustin Harts, the Ronnie Thatchers, and I got to take on the Dagons. And Dagon put up just as tough a fight as anyone I've ever faced. I was willing to give him that handshake. Who knows? I
I
might
would
get.
argue, and I would argue that was maybe the greatest World Underground title match in company history. You can certainly make that case, and Dagan kind of, in a way, gave you sort of a nod, but still, he talked about on his most recent show with DJB. He talked about the prior champions. I'm not going to mention most of the names. Ronnie, we could certainly mention, obviously, Ronnie. And I will mention another champion that you're going to be facing in the ring where you actually, ironically, you and Mr. Dagan actually agreed and had some of the same thoughts on that individual. But I'll come back to that shortly. But Ethan would like to say this Saturday show is going to be a good one. And it's a free one. I mean, just you can't beat that, right? And that's why CCW is the place to be. Follow CCW. And some upcoming shows as well. They're going to be awesome. CCW, hopefully more Carnage shows. I believe the Carnage show is in June, if I'm not mistaken.
June the 8th, yep.
June the 8th, which I saw that. Thank you. Colory Resurrection, the National Colory Brawl. Yep. Cole Not Dole. Yes, we always know that's a staple. Rumble in the Underground. So, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great shows ahead. And, don't be discouraged. I mean, one person might have, obviously, listen, you're getting interviews, requests left and right. That's why the noise is in the background. But it was, but the point is that in CCW's got the top shows around. And one door closes, many doors open. So let your hearts not be troubled about some Jezebel that has a few things to say. But can't beat a good old free show. Amen to that. Let me ask. Let me ask you though. Let's come back to a couple things on Dagan before I actually present to you something on the screen. Dagan is getting a rematch with you on June the 8th, and that's going to be a death match. Basically, his words were that it's going to basically take to the death to put him down. He talked about also in his most recent show, he talked about also the fact that, all the interference, you referred to it, and you've obviously been a hardcore wrestler. You have obviously liked dabbling in some of this, but, in a circumstance like this, how do you think that favors you going into a match? Certainly we'll talk about next week coming up in a few minutes, but what do you make of that in terms of going into a death match now with Mr. Dagan, especially, after some of the things he said and just some of the other things that went on within the match?
See, Dagon has had his fair share of hardcore matches throughout the years. Maybe there have not been death matches, but he's dabbled a bit in the old hardcore matches. But I know what this is all about. This is mind games. Dagon has always been about the mind games, and he's trying to play mind games. He basically wants to take me on. Excuse me. He wants to take me on at my own game. That's what he's trying to do. He wants to take me on head on at my own game, and he's thinking deathmatch is the way to go. Okay, no problem. If that's what he thinks, then he's more than welcome to. He's more than welcome to try. But personally, I think that he might be jumping the gun a wee bit. I think he might be running before he can crawl, if you know what I mean.
Let me ask you though, because I have a different take, and tell me your thoughts on this, because obviously it's very rare for a champion right after they lose the match to invoke the rematch clause. It's very rare for a champion to have made statements like Mr. Dagan did after the match. Do you think that Dagan's doing that in a way because he sees you now as a really vulnerable champion, and also for two reasons? Number one, you didn't pin him to win the title. Number two, the interference itself, but also this is a new thing for you. Not like when you were the Carnage hardcore champion. We've seen that. We know that. We know you've done that, and we've had success with that, and you held on to that title and did as much as you could have anybody could have ever done with that championship. But being a world champion is different than any other champion in this sport. To be the world champion, and especially of a company as successful as CCW's, to be the top guy, I mean, everybody in CCW wants your spot. But not only that, there are other people in this country and outside this country that know what CCW has to offer and say, you know what? Jam Dog's a champion. I could beat him. I want a shot at him. Do you think that Dagan sees you as a weak champion and that's why he kind of right off the bat invoked the rematch clause and wanted a death match?
I don't know if it's that, or I don't know if it's frustration. The feeling I got from Dagon, from when I tried to shake his hand, from the moment he rolled out the ring, from the moment he grabbed that microphone, said what he said and left through the curtain, it was sheer frustration. I think Dagon had it in his mind that there was no way he could lose, and when it actually did happen, I think he just blew up, and that's when he made that decision. And I thought maybe as the nights go on, the days go on, maybe he might think twice about his decision. Maybe he might regret it. From what I've seen, he's not regretting that decision. He wants that death match.
I mean, he was forceful on this past week's show, and he doubled down on his comments. And I thought that was rather peculiar, especially for Dagan, who has been such a dominant champion. And you know, he was correct in a lot of things that he said when he compared himself to other champions that don't work here and couldn't cut the mustard anymore in CCW. But when it came to you, it was just maybe you're the one that's in his head. You think it's possible, champ, that maybe you're in his head for the first time?
Oh yeah, because as I've said this before to Dagon, I said I've seen a lot of similarities in myself in my younger years to the way Dagon used to be. I don't know if you've seen any of the pictures, but I had a lot of face paint on at one point. I wore bizarre outfits.
I'm going to pull something up that will probably refer to that actually in about 2 minutes.
Okay. So there you go. So you know what I'm on about there, Tom. So I know all about mind games, you know, and even to this day, when I'm in a match with someone, especially it's an old disqualification match, I have done some of the most bizarre things to my opponents, and folk will say to me, that's not going to help you get the win. And I was like, I don't know, if you pull someone's boxers halfway up their backside, they're not going to be thinking too much about winning a match. They're going to be thinking, what have I got to do to escape this? I have tied people to ring posts. I've tied people to aprons. I've dragged them through the crowd and let the crowd beat them up. I've done some bizarre things to opponents.
Well, how about the confetti shot at Dagan's face? I mean, there was that in there. You had some tricks, some Jinx-like tricks. Miss Jinx, obviously, referring to there. So you definitely, have your tricks up your sleeve. And I know you're not going to tell us about that on June the 8th, and we'll have you here before June the 8th, but I certainly want to get to next week before as well. But let me say hello to a buddy of mine, my buddy, Mr. Michael Christian, who in his own right wrestled in a hardcore match this past week. I did some commentary for it. Michael wants to say hello, Jam Dog. Great to see the majestic beard. But while I have a chance, Mr. Champion, I wanted to obviously present to you a couple of things. But the first thing I want to do is I actually wanted to present to you something on behalf of your career, and I wanted to do something special. I was like, 20 years had taken place a few days ago, and I actually wanted to give you something. Only if you insist. Now, I promise you this won't be a Prince Dagan-like thing for you, but I wanted to give you something that recognizes you in this sport for all the accomplishments that you've had. And only if you insist, though. I mean, obviously, I promise you it won't be a bobblehead Barris. I promise you, it won't be a Crybrid, video clip from his last appearance on Sportswire Radio. But I did want to present to you something only if you insist, champ.
Sounds good. What have you got for me?
I've got you this because it is now officially 20 years on April 12th, 2024, and I gave you something officially on behalf of Sportswire Radio, and on this date, April 15th, 2024, we had recognized you for your 20th anniversary as a wrestler.
Wow.
It took place on April 12th, 2024. That it was your 20th anniversary. 2004 was the first time you were in the ring, and I wanted to present to you something a little special for that. So, wanted to give that to you, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of a commemoration and just congratulations on 20 years in this great sport. And just as we always do on Sportswire, wanted to go the extra mile for you, champ.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Tom. I was so excited. I dropped the phone there.
I thought Prince Dagan was on the other line. He was saying, I did say I was going to interfere in every main event till I get a title shot, but now I'm going to interfere in every Jam Dog or every CCW interview until he gets that match.
Oh, don't give him any ideas. You know what he's like. But no,
I do know
that's
what he's like.
amazing.
I do know what he's like. Yes, I do.
But no, that's amazing, Tom. Thank you so much. I really
Oh, you
appreciate
got
that.
it. Well, you definitely deserve it. I want to say hello to, speaking of a fellow Hall of Famer, I want to say hello to one of my buddies who I haven't seen in a couple of months. Of course, he is the only person from the entire country of Britain to have fought in Dombe in the African Warriors Fighting Championships. He also, once upon a time, he probably doesn't want me to say this, but dabbled in the world of wrestling. Mr. Luke Leyland, he is the delusional optimist, but he's not delusional. He really is an optimist for good reasons, because he is certainly the man is not quite the DDP of power of positivity, but he's almost right there. But he says, hello, gentlemen, love the Sportswire shows and loads of great guests. And certainly Mr. Leyland is a part of that history as well. He's also a part of my most viewed YouTube interview in history. So thank you, Mr. Leyland, for tuning in. Yes, but don't worry, CCW is my most favorite one. So that's, makes it everybody even. Good evening and good interview, Jam Dog. Yes, it's been a good one. Jam Dog's always a live one. I always like having Jam Dog here. But, Jam Dog, I do want to, before I present to you some more things, I do have to bring up next weekend, because you kind of referred to me in Sportswire Radio, but not in a bad way. You referred to the man that you're taking on and your opponent, who was once upon a time the CCW World Underground Champion, and his name is Hybrid, but you refer to him as Crybrid, and some people say Crybaby, and even Mr. Dagan, in a rare form of agreement, actually said the same things you did. So I have to ask you, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, what can we expect right out of the box here in your first match, since you beat Mr. Dagan at Miners Mania 3, in a champion versus champion match, you might want to say, in a way? You are taking on Hybrid, and this is in a lot of ways still a dream match that I've mentioned here on this platform in the past, and hopefully Hybrid will have good Wi-Fi coming into the match. But what can we expect other than Wi-Fi issues and anything else that Hybrid has cried about here, according to you and others? So tell us what can we expect next time.
Well, it depends. With this match, you're going to get jam. You're going to get the jam that everyone knows, the jam that everyone loves, or hates. I'm sure there's some people that hate me, but that's fine. They're more entitled to their opinion.
Who can hate you? No, seriously.
Exactly.
I know you a while now. Who hates you other than Dagan? Let's be honest.
Exactly. Hybrid might hate me after the match.
I think, have you had your own issues with Wi-Fi? It looks like you've had your own issues. Has Hybrid interfered in your Wi-Fi, Mr. Jam Dog? It looks like here that that very well could be the case. Did Hybrid try to do a run-in on your Wi-Fi just now?
I was going to say, I swear, right? So I looked up and the bar disappeared, and my daughter's sitting over there. She's on her wee tablet thing, watching stuff on YouTube.
We know Hybrid's certainly trying to even the score, but as we were
both me and my daughter get hit at the same time, because she looked over at me and I looked over at her, and then both our devices started working, and we're like, "Oh, we're all good, we're all fine." We avoided.
And Resurrection coming up. Is this the resurrection of Hybrid's career at your expense, and what can we expect?
I'm going to be honest with you. See, as I said, you know what you're going to expect with me. As far as Hybrid goes, that's going to be the one. That's going to be the dark horse. What are we going to expect? We're going to expect to see the Hybrid that turns up and runs about and fumbles into people and falls about and is struggling to focus on finishing matches and winning matches? Or are we going to get the Hybrid that first walked into CCW, that was focused, that was determined to win matches, that put on a show?
We've never seen before in the company. I remember having him on a year and a half ago, those first times, and he with the CWO and everything else that went on, and he's not the same person, a lot of people would say.
No, he's not, and then that's a shame. I'm going to be honest with you. If that Hybrid turned up and tore through me, gave me the fight of my life, and even beat me for his championship, if he beat me for his championship fair and square, and we got that Hybrid, I would offer him a handshake the same way I offered Dagon when I beat him, because I'd be like, well, you know what, he deserves it. If that's a hybrid turns up, wow, he would deserve it. But right now, this version of hybrids, he's not focused on wrestling. He's not focused on winning. His mind is elsewhere. And as long as you've got that kind of mindset, you're never ever going to get your goals in wrestling. In wrestling, you get what you put in. And in my opinion,
Sure.
Hybrid's got a lot more to put in if he wants to take this championship from me. Simple
Let me
as.
let me ask you a different question. Tell me what your thoughts are, champ, on this. As we are here with the reigning defending CCW World Underground Champion Jam Dog, who just celebrated his 20th anniversary in the ring. He celebrated it 3 days ago, and my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And you can see it right up here. I'm going to have something else I'm going to present to you shortly, so hang on tight for that. But let me ask you this question. And Hybrid was champion. He was on here a couple of times during that run as champion. When you saw how he was as champion and maybe how you performed, is that an example for you on what to avoid in order for you to keep the CCW World Underground Championship? What's your thoughts on that?
I remember when I first seen Hybrids, and as you said, it was something different. He came in, he was throwing people around. He was focused, and I thought to myself, that is someone that could be a challenge. That is someone that could give me a run for my money here in CCW if he and I were ever to meet one on one. And it never happened. We never met
No.
one on one. This will be the very first time, and I must say I am looking forward to it. But there's such a thing as getting too much too fast. And I think maybe Hybrid let the success get to his head. And now that's why he thinks to himself, well, I don't need to focus as hard.
I had Brad Coleman on last night, who got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he was a different name once upon a time and was supposed to come into CCW. And he said the same exact thing. He said, Tom, maybe I looked back on my career before the injury last year and said, maybe I got pushed too soon. Maybe I was in main events. Yeah. I win a world title. I'm a tag team champion. I'm in 3, 4, 5 different promotions. And, and maybe it was too much too soon. We see it all the time in life. People that get pushed or they get into something that they don't really have experience in. They don't know how to handle that. Maybe he didn't know how to handle the pitfalls of being a champion. Whereas, this is a moment that if there's anybody that's fought and clawed as hard as you, I mean, you are really the definition of everybody talks about Cody finishing the story. You're the real definition of it because it was 20 years in this sport and you were never a world champion. I mean, you're the true definition of that. If there's anybody that knows and what it would mean and appreciate being a world champion as much as you, I can't find them. So, maybe that's one thing that you have going for you.
That's it. That's exactly it. Hybrid and I come from 2 different backgrounds in the business. Took me 20 years to get here. I appreciate it, and I realize I'm going to have to work harder, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's putting effort in matches and training, whether it's, whatever I need to do to focus to keep this championship, I'm going to have to do it. Whereas, unfortunately, maybe with Hybrid, he just got to that point where he got the title and he figured, well, there we go. That's it. It's all up here, hill from here. That's not always the case.
Fair point. And I want to say hello to a couple of people before I tell people why this is on the screen. First of all, a man that is actually hardcore. He is currently the TBW hardcore champion. He is the one and only Atomic Titan. And of course, TBW is out there and they have 7,200 subscribers on YouTube. And he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. As a matter of fact, he was here last Sunday in your chair. And he says, hope you all doing well. Have a great Monday. Fellow Hall of Famer, by the way, Mr. Leyland, a fellow Hall of Famer. So we have a number of Hall of Famers saying hello. I want to say hello to Mr. OK. I know I owe Mr. OK an appearance on Sportswire, by the way. I know I owe him an appearance. I think that we were speaking about that off the air with somebody in the company. So, Mr. OK, maybe one of these days, if it's okay, we'll bring you on to Sportswire. Like how I put the OK in there? Maybe the Mr. OK and the OK. I thought that was kind of clever there. But I wanted to show you something that you basically posted. It's kind of a 2-part thing, which kind of talks about going into the 20th anniversary. And I want to read it off for the audience. Just remember that today is is officially 20 years since I got into wrestling. And that time I got to do pretty much everything I wanted to do. Ring crew and security, check. Referee, check. Ring announcer, check. I didn't really realize you were a ring announcer. Taylor and Ruby, you might have to move on over. Commentary, I could definitely see commentary. Managing, didn't know that. On-show authority figure. I mean, maybe we shouldn't give you ideas because Mr. Barris and voice of the colory might. Well, Mr. Barris would certainly have opinions. We know that wrestler. Coach, check. Booker, promoter, check. I could go on about the training, match roles, travel matches, opponents, and everything else in between. But all I'm saying is I'm happy with them all so far. I can't complain. I would say 20 more years, but physically that's not going to happen. So instead, I will say, let's enjoy what time is left. What does that mean to you now that you get a chance to hear that live on the audience and you have a chance to reflect on that now that it's been a few days since your 20th anniversary now has officially been since your in-ring debut back on April 12th, 2004.
Wow. It's one of those ones, I wrote it and I didn't actually stop to read it back, other than probably improving any grammar mistakes.
Don't feel too bad. I mean, my grammar, I forever hear my university English professor still telling me about grammatical errors, so don't feel too bad.
So, yeah, but other than that, I never actually read that back until hearing you read it back there, and it's like, wow, that's... Again, that's my entire adult life. Really was spent from wrestling. So doing all these different things. And again, as I said at the end there, I don't know physically. I don't know how much I have left. I'm glad, obviously, that I beat Dagon, won the championship, and the career carries on. But I know my limits. I know that. That I'm hurting from time to time. I know that I'm not exactly in the best way that I used to be. I don't recover from brutal matches the way I once did. I could take part in a brutal match and go out to a nightclub that night, enjoy the night, and wake up the next day at 10:30 in the morning and be fresh as a daisy. Not anymore. Physically, no, that won't happen for me. Not that I drink anymore, but the matches themselves, I'm waking up the next day and I'm in my body can be in bits some mornings. So I know for a fact that I don't have 20 more years, but the time that I do have, I want to enjoy every single moment of it. And here at CCW, I'm having some of the most fun I have ever had, and long may that continue.
And we certainly want it to continue, and we certainly want everybody to continue to support CCW. And I'm so glad that we got a chance to read this post off the air, because I think in a lot of ways, it's so important to be able to put it into words and reflect. And, obviously we hope to see you in the ring for 20 more years from now, but who knows what the world's going to be like in 20 years from now. So let's certainly, let's live in the moment. Let's enjoy it. And Ethan's going back and forth with Mr. OK, but is it past your bedtime? Well, it's only 8:45. Listen, 8:45.
That's past his bedtime. That's past
Well, he's
Mr. O'K's
here.
bedtime.
Well, listen, I appreciate that. But speaking of things that might be past people's bedtimes, before we move on to a couple other things, I have to announce it on the air that I'm going to have the one and only Walker Wall Street is back here live next week. And Walker Wall Street has not been here in a long time. Usually, Walker was like, if I think about the history of CCW, I think Walker made the most appearances. And now Walker has been kind of pushed to the side the last few months, but he's back. He's got a big match coming up at the free show here against Rico Justice, who Rico Justice has certainly, made a rather interesting name for himself of late. And he's going to talk about that. And also, Walker is going to talk about his return to CCW and more. So you're going to want to tune to that. But also, I'm going to be back the following week with more CCW coverage, but this time from Coming Out Championship Wrestling on May 1st, 8 o'clock British Standard Time, because our old friend Taylor Truth is back. And Taylor's always got a lot of things to say. And I'm always looking forward to having Taylor back on the show. They've got a big show coming up on May the 4th. So hopefully May the 4th be with you to come in here and tune in on Sportswire Radio for the returning Taylor Truth. Always love having Taylor on. I'm glad that Taylor held up his end of the bargain, because I told Taylor when he came on a couple of months ago, I'm like, you got to come on a lot sooner than the last appearance. I think it was like over a year before he came on again. And I was like, you got to come on a lot sooner. So he certainly held up his end of the bargain. So I'm very, very excited about that. So looking forward to that. More CCW coverage is ahead throughout the month on Sportswire Radio. And I want to thank, obviously, everybody for their support. Also, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, or All Wrestling Matters. If you are on YouTube, hit that sub button for us at Sportswire Radio 6579. Check us out on our internet radio station at SportsWireRadio.org, where we've been playing an interview from Mr. Bobblehead Barris that was he given to a gentleman named Mr. Baltimore Kid TBK, another American. So you want to tune into that all throughout the week via the Listen Live button on SportsWireRadio.org. Also, I'm going to be back here at 10 o'clock Eastern Time with all the way out there in Dakota from LBYW, the Psychotic Freak. Yes, he is a psychotic freak, and he's got a lot to say. He's going to talk about a group PMS. He's going to talk about pretty mean guys that are like the Wilster and others. So he's going to talk about all of that here in his journey into the ring and some. So it'll be at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, the Psychotic Freak from LBYW. Want to thank, obviously, everybody at LBYW for their support. You can follow them on YouTube and Instagram, and especially YouTube. They do a lot of great things for us here on Sportswire Radio. But right now we are here with the reigning, defending CCW World Underground Champion, Jam Dog, and he is going to be in the ring next weekend at Resurrection against Hybrid, and June the 8th in a death match in the rematch against Prince Dagan. And I have something else, Champ, I'd like to bring up here, which will kind of show some things in pictures. So there you go. You have this here in pictures. So we're going to pull this up a little bit bigger because I can't see it. There we go. So there, we're going to pull that up. I'm going to zoom it in. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So we see some of those pictures, and what do those pictures mean to you when you see all of this and, you get a chance to see some of the moments of your 20-year career? Obviously, you with rather an afro. I mean, we will see you with a little bit of an afro there on the right-hand side. We see a young you with Tommy Dreamer, who is still wrestling. So maybe you could still wrestle 20 years from now because he's still actually wrestling. Jim Cornette, who ironically I listened to earlier this morning. And then we see the center, we see obviously a lovely family, and we see everybody from CCW and so many other people, and those collage of pictures for you, Champ. What does that mean to you when you see that here just now?
I'm looking at it, and the picture just underneath myself with Jim Cornette. That's me, and I think it was my second or third match with the most horrible wrestling gear known to man, which is black with poop stained brown flames.
Well, you shouldn't say that, because I'll tell you why. Because there was a guy that came on the show and was shooting, quote unquote, in certain things, and one of the guys he wrestled literally on the back of his pants, and it was really true. He had a poop stain on the back of his pants, and he didn't change his pants. You could tell, and they were having the match. The guy he was wrestling, I don't want to give credence to their names, was going like this. So let's certainly hope that doesn't happen again.
Oh dear. But so you go from like the early matches, and then there's like just meeting all the different people. The one underneath the main photo with Laura, myself, and Hallie with the CCW Underground title, not the one with me with the Carnage belt, but the one underneath that's pictures of myself and David Devlin, Nikki Cross, Big Damo, the Wilsons, just people that I started off.
Yeah, let me zoom it in.
Yeah, like I started off with Big Damo, and I met David Devlin in his early career, and Nikki in her early career, and the Wilsons. They've been coming to shows, taking pictures in the crowd. Now they're official photographers for a lot of the companies in Scotland. Getting to meet them and be friends with them and still know them 20 years later, and it's incredible. Johnny Kidd as well, there with Mike Quackenbush.
Oh, yes, I know Mike Quackenbush. It's definitely a name I've heard. Absolutely, yes, that's a name I remember hearing from when I was a kid, when it meant something, still reading the Pro Wrestling Torch. I remember as a kid reading the Pro Wrestling. Yes, I remember reading it as a kid. I remember reading the Pro Wrestling Torch, and I would read every single match description. I would read. That's how I remember visually, getting into wrestling, those early days. Yep, sure. Mike Quackenbush is definitely a name. If you if you knew kind of your way around independent and kind of certainly middle America wrestling, he was a big time name for sure. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And him and, as it says, Johnny Kidd there, Johnny Kidd, World of Sport wrestling legend.
Oh, for sure. Well, yep.
Myself and you and G Mackey at the bottom there with the Rad Pro tag titles as well. They're talking about the face paint and the funny hair and stuff, like all these just memories. And my pal Carly, the girl that's about kicking me my head right off. I'm friends with Carly to this very day. Our daughters are friends, our daughters hang around. So it's when you look at this big thing of folk will be like, oh, that's just all those wrestling pictures. I'm like, no, these pictures are more than just wrestling. A lot of them are, life for me. And
snapshots in time.
Yeah, snapshots in time. And as I said, to get to meet these amazing people, and some of them to call friends to this very day, as I said with Carly as well, our daughters are friends. It's incredible. Starting off with Big Damo, and there's one at the top with Damo and myself with the worst looking tag team titles ever, because don't be fooled. They might look like plastic world heavyweight championship belts, but I can assure you they are plastic world heavyweight championship
well,
belts.
I mean, look, everybody. Listen, we're all wrestling matters as
Yeah, exactly.
And I am not going to disparage any champions, but I will say this to put a bow on it. And I know everybody could ask you about Cornette and Dreamer, blah 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 blah. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask you in a different way. What's it mean to you now in this point of your career to be able to see your daughter witness you on top, and obviously your partner to be there with you? That to me means maybe more than pictures with names that everybody knows, right? I mean, it's great. I mean, listen, man, everybody would love to have a picture. Everybody would love to be the tribal cheese and meet all the famous people in the world. And he's topic. I'll get to him in a few minutes for a different reason. But I did tell me I feel that this means more seeing your family now apart.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
That's to me what means more than the big shots.
Yeah, you could look at it from the point of view of having my family there as a dream come true, because I got to win that title. Like, my daughter's enjoying herself at the table there. I don't know if you heard her shout there.
What I've noticed on Sportswire, one of my most recent guests had his dog in the background. Michael Christian had his son in the background. So we love it. Listen, all wrestling, all people, all things, all objects matters at this point. All animals.
Exactly.
Come on down. I mean, to me, we're having don't bother me.
No, having her there, this is going to be something we can look back on. And when she asked, she was like, "Dad, were you a wrestler?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I won a heavyweight championship." And she went, "No way, when?" And I can say, "Well, you were there." We can show her the picture. She even got a nice shout out from Dagon during the match. But no, having my family there, and Laura, my partner, I've known Laura since I was in college. I think she was 16 when I met her, and I was 18. But we lost contact years and years and years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was coming back from a show, and I stopped off in Glasgow City Centre, and I made a decision: do I go and get something to eat just now, or do I go for the train? And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for the train, get back to Rutherglen, that was my hometown at the time, or the place I was living, and I'll eat there. So I made that decision not to eat, and I went and got the train. As I was getting to the train, I bumped into Laura's brother-in-law, and I get chatting to him. And that's what led to myself and Laura meeting again and hanging out again. And I was like, yeah, that was me coming back from a wrestling show. So I might not have met Laura. Hey, you. My daughter's
a baby in the background.
Yeah.
What a small world. You just never know. I mean, that's really That's really special, and you just never know in life. You never know where a journey may take you, and that's why I wanted to play the pictures and also what you said, because to me, as one of our Hall of Famers said, that to me, true wrestlers do it for the love of this sport. And you've done that.
Oh yeah.
You've done it through the travel, through the car rides, through everything you've went through to be here. And I think that's why it means so much more that you're a world champion, and you're a world champion for a company that's one of the biggest companies around in this scene. And it's a company that does so much more than just wrestling. And that's why we're so honored to have you here. But in the amount of time that I have, and I realize you got the baby in the background, but I have to ask you, because speaking of Hybrid's last opponent was the Tribal Cheese, and the Tribal Cheese, we know, had a speech. He certainly said a few things, and he's taking a sabbatical right now from the world and CCW. And obviously, we send all of our love to the Tribal Cheese, and we
Of course,
certainly
yeah.
hope one day to see him in the ring. But I know that everybody was caught off guard by what he said in that speech. And, what was the reaction like for you and the rest of the locker room when the Tribal Cheese basically says, "I'm not well, and this is for the foreseeable future, the last time you're going to see me." And kind of that was that. I mean, it was definitely it was I mean, it was a really emotional night to begin with. Obviously, everything that was going on with Derek and Alfie Nerd's mother being there, Alfie Nerds winning the hardcore championship, and I mean, all the emotions there in that building. But then to have that, what was your reaction toward that?
In all honesty, and I know Cheese won't mind me saying this, but like he and I had spoken beforehand before the event, and he told me that he was going to be there, he was going to fulfill his booking, he was going to do what he could for the fans. But he told me he wasn't well, and he told me he wasn't happy, and I told him that I appreciate the fact is that he's doing what he's doing for the fans, but I told him that I really, really think that he's doing the right thing, which is taking that time. Go do what you need to do, get yourself better. As much as we always say, like, oh, we all love wrestling, but
Sure.
our own mental health, the mental health of others, that comes first. And if you need to take that time away and you need to take some time to yourself to relax, to recharge the batteries, then I encourage it. So I'm glad that Cheese was able to do that. Obviously, yeah, we'll miss having him about in shows, but as long as he's able to go and take that time and relax, again, I wish I did that. I took some time away from wrestling at the end of 2019.
You spoke
Now,
about that, I think, before the break on the phone.
yeah,
You spoke about it
and
here
I,
before.
and I wish that what I'd done beforehand was rather than just walk away from it, I wish I told people, I wish I said to people that I was struggling at the time. I wish I'd said, right, I need to take a few weeks, few months, take a step away. But instead, I let it all get to me, and it was it was too much. So for me personally, when it comes to Cheese's decision, I support his decision. He's got my number. I've told him to reach out to me, and if he needs to speak, again, I've helped work with charities before in the past, FAMS. I've got one of their posters up there for one of the charity shows that Alba runs. That helps people in distress, and Barris was talking about it as well. Andy's Man's Club, they do some amazing things for men's mental health. Because again, when it comes to mental health in men, like sometimes we do struggle to
Yeah, it's a
tell
different
to
world.
talk.
I mean, it's a different
Yeah,
world. Years ago, people would have said, "Ah, mental health," you would have been laughed out.
yeah,
I've been here in the past,
exactly.
but now it's a different world. I think people look at it and say, "You know what? If somebody's not well,
Yeah,
we don't know what goes on in somebody's minds. We can't walk in somebody's shoes. So, if there is
exactly.
something wrong, I mean, look, I mean, Robin Williams famously died of suicide.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
Robin Williams was one of the most funniest people in the world, and he probably was an example. If there was something like this, a lot of people, unfortunately, that it is in that way. And the fact that the tribal cheese has definitely, gone out and gotten the help. And, we certainly encourage that. And, whenever he wants to come back, and whether it's here or CCW, we definitely,
Yeah.
I'm sure have an open door. And anybody that's on the platform watching and listening, if there is something that you need, definitely let us know. We'd be happy to help you. But we got about 20 or so minutes with Mr. Jam Dog. Jam Dog's going to be back in the ring next Saturday at Resurrection against Hybrid, and I can promise you that Hybrid might need some mental health to be able to get through the match, because Jam Dog is going to certainly unleash a couple of things here to try to keep that championship. And he's also going to be back in the ring coming up on June the 8th in Carnage Championship Wrestling in a death match against Prince Dagan, although Prince Dagan is still saying that he is going to interfere in every single main event until he gets that shot beforehand. So who knows? Who knows what will go on? But that's why you want to follow CCW on all platforms. And yes, I agree with you, Mr. OK. That's just a good show next week. It's going to be a great show next week. And we've got a free show this weekend. I mean, Walker Wall Street's in action against Rico Justice. I mean, Hybrid's in action against Beelzebub. I mean, speaking of that here, Hybrid's got a warm-up match, you might want to say, coming up this weekend. Do you think that maybe Hybrid could get caught napping here and overlook Beelzebub because he's focused on you and maybe focused on getting himself back? Obviously, Tribal Cheese, that was a match we spoke about here for months, and Hybrid came up short. I mean, any chance you think Hybrid can get caught napping this weekend against Beelzebub?
I'd like to think not, because Beelzebub, yeah, he does have the most impressive record, but Beelzy's tough. He might not have the most best win record in CCW.
Cheese has had his issues with him in the past. I mean, a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like the guy, I've only met him in Battle Royals and Rumbles, but he can take some amount of punishment, so it would be foolish for Hybrid to not go into this match focusing on Beelzebub. If, as I said, take some advice from the champ, Hybrid, focus on that one match. Once you deal with that, then focus on me. Don't worry about me. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be calling you names, giving you hassle. You've got that match. Do what needs to be done. And once you've won, then you can come speak to me. Then you can worry about me.
What are your goals as CCW World Underground Champion?
Get the best competition I can. Try my best to get the best out of people. I don't want it to be a case of you turn up, oh, well, hey, you've got a match with Jam for the title. Oh, well, we'll see. No, I want people to turn up and they're giving me their best. Because again, as I said, if someone beats me 1, 2, 3 fair and square and I lose that championship, I want those people, I want whoever that person is to deserve it. I want them to have earned it. I don't want it to be a case of, oh, well, we'll see. Nah. We don't do that in CCW. Not anymore.
Oh, no, those days are over. And anybody who has seen you in the ring and watched you, it's going to certainly be no layup, and it's going to be no picnic out there for anybody to try to take that championship from you. So we have no doubt about that. And anything else on the horizon for you outside of CCW? I know Alba, a lot of CCW talent is going to be there, and I know that there's obviously some other shows, well, Arcadian Wrestling, but any other places that we may, see you have an eye on at least before, let's say, June the 8th especially?
Alba Championship Wrestling. See,
yeah, Alba's got a show coming up this weekend. Yep.
Yeah, this Saturday at the Bells Hill.
Dagan's going to be there, by the way, and he spoke about that, Mr. Dagan.
So Dagon, he is the Battle of Burnbank Battle Royal winner of 2023.
Yes.
So he's won himself a championship match, either the Outer Hebrides Championship or the Heavyweight Championship. So he's got either one of those championships he can have a match with. It's not a cash-in gimmick. He can't just run in at the end of a match. He has to let the champion, let Miss Jinx, she's the general manager there, he needs to let them know, and he'll get his match. So he's saying that maybe he should get himself a match with Craig Forsyth for the Outer Hebrides Championship. He's saying that maybe he should get himself entered into the main event. So he's coming up with all these dream scenarios. But I've got an idea. Now, unfortunately, that Battle of Burnbank contract that he's got can't get him a rematch with this. That has to be done by CCW. However, Bell's Hill is not too far away from here, from where I live. Bell's Hill, I've never wrestled in Bell's Hill. However, my first match I ever refereed in was in Bell's Hill. The first independent wrestling show I ever attended was in Bell's Hill.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I'd really like a match in Bell's Hill. So why don't Dagon, if you're watching, why don't you meet me one on one? Just a friendly match. I can't promise you a championship opportunity, but I can offer you a match. You and I one on one in Bell's Hill in front of the Scottish crowds. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Wait. Let me get this straight. Jam Dog, are you meaning to tell us right now live in front of the world that you actually have a message for Mr. Dagan? And not only do you want to have a match with him, you want to have a match with him in another country? Is that what you're telling us right now?
Yeah, like as I said, I've done a lot of work for Alba. They've offered me matches. And again, Bell's Hill. I've never wrestled in Bell's Hill. It was the first independent place I ever seen independent wrestling. And I've never had a match there. The first match I ever refereed was there, but I've never wrestled there. So I'm going to wrestle there. Dagon's looking for a match. Dagon can still get his championship match in June at Fight for Fans. He has a year to cash that championship opportunity in, and he can do it there. So why don't I give Dagon a warm-up? And if he really wants to get his hands on me the way he's telling everyone he does, why doesn't he go for it? This Saturday, Bell's Hill.
My goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, that thing we were not prepared for just now. CCW World Underground Champion Jam Dog has basically evened the score, or maybe turned up the volume and turned the tables on Prince Dagan, because he's offering him not just any match, but another match in another promotion in another country. I mean, we see friendly matches all the time, but something tells me, ladies and gentlemen, that this is not going to be a friendly match. And something tells me here now that Mr. Dagan has got, less than 5 days to respond. And maybe Mr. Dagan is going to have to specifically enter the apocalypse this week and maybe give an answer, because Jam Dog has now put Prince Dagan on the clock. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, it's be careful what you wish for, especially when it came to Mr. Dagan had to say last week on his podcast, and then especially after what he said the moment he lost the World Underground Championship to Jam Dog. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, Prince Dagan is on the clock, and I'm going to assure you this, ladies and gentlemen, especially for those that just tuned in or haven't got a chance to tune in, you're going to hear this right after we go off the air on Instagram, Facebook, specifically what Jam Dog has just said, just alone. That's going to go out to all the Sportswire platforms. So people, and especially Mr. Dagan, can get a first-hand account and specifically hear what Jam Dog has said. You know, he certainly isn't Hybrid. Hybrid was talking about being on the posters and not having any competition. No, not Jam Dog. Not so fast, ladies and gentlemen. Jam Dog has turned up the score. He has turned the tables on Dagan, and he shows that he's not going to be caught napping, and he wants a tune-up match, just like Hybrid's got a tune-up match coming up this weekend at the free CCW show against Beelzebub. It looks like Jam Dog is going into his not only 21st year, but his run as new underground champion of CCW. He's going into it, coming out swinging and going on full offense. And ladies and gentlemen, this, I can assure you, is why you need to follow CCW on all of their platforms and certainly find out what Prince Dagan will now have to say to what Jam Dog said. Boy, Jam Dog, you know, I don't even have to ask you anything anymore on Prince Dagan, because simply put, it's now up to Prince Dagan to respond. It's certainly, the ball is in his court now. I mean, you know, well, maybe he'll pull a Harry Kane like at the World Cup this past year, and maybe he'll flub on. I don't know, but I don't have to ask you anything anymore on Dagan, because now it's all about Dagan, but let me ask you quickly, any thoughts on the voice of the colory as we speak?
As I said, the voice of colour. Excuse me. Fair play to them. They have been nothing but nice. They've been nothing but respectful to me. I have made it clear to them. They don't tell me what to do. They don't boss me around. They don't do this. I said it to Ronnie when he was the GM. I've said it to Tabby when she's the Carnage GM. You know, I don't really like being told what to do. You can ask me, and I will say yes, or I will say no. But don't make demands. But so far, I cannot complain. The voice of the colony has been nothing but respectful, nothing but nice. So yeah, long live the voice of the colony.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, stay tuned. And we're all wondering the voice of the colory, and that's certainly going to be a topic I have no doubt to continue. And we'll have to certainly see what the future is. And Jam Dog, I know, is going to be a huge part of those things. And again, CCW coverage, this is a reminder of people coming up. Walker Wall Street's back next week, an announcement at the end of the week. We just want to get an exact date. Taylor Truths, though, is here May 1st. He is going to be here May 1st, 8 o'clock British Standard Time. Anytime Taylor speaks, he's always Taylor's Truth. So obviously he's going to certainly, I'm sure, give us a different kind of truth. But he's going to talk, obviously, whatever he wants to say. Also, he's obviously going to talk all things related to coming out championship wrestling, which I know the champion will certainly have an eye on for sure. But before I get to closing thoughts here, champion, I wanted to ask you, is there anything else that you wanted to say or get off your chest before closing thoughts tonight?
Oh, before closing thoughts, you're saying about coming out Championship Wrestling. I'm going to be a part of that event, part of the Pride Flag and a pole match, where I'm going to be in with Gentleman Thug, Ronnie Thatcher, Ewan G. Mackey, my former tag team partner.
Oh, we know you Mackey very well, obviously.
And Persona. So I can tell you, I am looking forward to that match. The rules are simple. You've got to climb up, pull the pride flag down, and wave that pride flag high in the air, and you get yourself a championship match at the Pride of the Ring. And as I said before, you know, I think that I would look good with a lovely crown on my head and a robe over my shoulders.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, you know, Persona is going to, I'm sure Mr. Dagan is instructing him to win this. I know that Mr. Dagan is upset about Spawn certainly coming out in the match that took place, which allowed you to win the World Underground title. But obviously, he'll have a lot of emotions. Obviously, Ronnie Thatcher, the Gentleman Thug, has also got a lot on his mind. Ewan G. Mackey is in there. And, you know, all of you guys are just, you know, certainly, you know, I'm sure you're watching all of them very closely. And we'll certainly find out. I'm sure Taylor is going to talk a lot about the card. There's some great matches already, and I'll certainly leave that to when Taylor comes onto the platform here May 1st. And also as a reminder, CCW free show this Saturday, and then Resurrection next weekend. So all great coverage. We're going to be talking a lot about that here in the future. And obviously, I know you got the baby in the background still battling a cold, so I want to give you the floor now, champ. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug. And I think I'm going to leave up here the certificate so people can see it for the remaining few minutes of the show. And I want to turn it over to you now, and the floor is yours.
First things first, as we were saying earlier, Bells Hill YMCA this Saturday, Alba Championship Wrestling. Put the challenge out to Dagon. I'm sure he'll accept. We'll find out very, very soon. If you're a local down at Seaham, free show, CCW, can't go wrong. Go and enjoy the show. And let me know how Hybrid does, you know. Just shoot me a wee message, let me know how he's doing, you know.
But you don't recommend I bring him back on because of the Wi-Fi issues, right? You don't recommend that.
No, you know what, have him back on, even if he's not fixed his Wi-Fi. That was hilarious. I felt bad a little bit, but like I've already let you know this. I was laughing. I had tears of laughter.
You know what? You weren't the only one, because it was a topic with a few other guys in the locker room, a few other people that watch my shows that are from different parts of the world that, you know, kind of, you know, said the same thing about it. But yeah, you know, I was disappointed because he was usually pretty good on here, and then all of a sudden it was like kapunk. It was like, yeah, it was almost like a comic book in terms of just the pow bam, just his Wi-Fi was basically pow bammed. And, you know, unfortunately, yeah, it was one of those things. But maybe it was all the complaining about the post not being on the poster, and, you know, not getting the match with the tribal cheese, and being the world champion, not being in main events. Whereas you and Dagan, ironically enough, said the same exact things. Just I guess the irony, you were actually bonded by basically your same opinions on Mr. Hybrid as champion. But yeah, that's definitely all great things. And obviously, I also want to give you a big shout out, by the way, for something else, because you always seem to be up every time I'm on Sportswire. People always joke and say, you're always on. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, but you always find a way to sneak in there. So always thank you for promoting. I'll put you in the Hall of Fame because you watch the shows. I'm only kidding. But the point is that I always appreciate you tuning in for a few minutes. And, you actually.
No, like, I'll always listen when I can, and I'll come on and show support. Even if it is 3-4 in the morning here. My sleeping pattern, I could go 2 days where I've only slept 4 hours within 2 days.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that these days. I've got like a weird sleep pattern. My home schedule is like really weird. So yeah, my sleep pattern, I might get 2 hours here, 3 hours there, 2 hours. So I'm like constantly tired. So I could certainly sympathize.
No, I'm not surprised for yourself. I'm not. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, listen, I appreciate all that, but obviously, thank you for tuning in. And Champ, congratulations on all the success. I look forward to obviously watching what happens with Mr. Dagan's response. I'm going to make sure that clip goes up here in a little while so it goes right to him. So he can certainly respond right away. And I want obviously everybody to certainly follow CCW and you. And also, I look forward, despite what you may say, to the next 20 years of your career, whatever it might be in the world of wrestling. And congratulations on making history. And certainly we'll look forward to seeing what you do here coming up real soon. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being a part of All Wrestling Matters. And thank you for making CCW, as I continue to say, Colory Community Wrestling. And Mr. Barris and the voice of the Colory, if you're out there, the one thing you should do is maybe considering changing the name to Colory Community Wrestling, because after all, CCW does so many great things for the community. But it's just my 2 cents. But thank you, champ, and congratulations.
No, Tom, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Always enjoy chatting with yourself, all things wrestling, because, as we always say, all wrestling matters.
It's about right. That's amen to all that. And we are here, ladies and gentlemen, with the brand new reigning defending CCW World Underground Champion, Mr. Jamdog. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And before we sign off, I want to say hello to another Hall of Famer, another veteran. He is the Nemesis James Taylor. He is the host of the Nemesis Sessions. He is on YouTube with 40,500 subscribers, TikTok with 76,000. And Mr. Taylor, if you have a chance, you should certainly interview Jamdog. He has had quite a journey in the world of wrestling. He just celebrated his 20th anniversary as an active wrestler. He is the world champion of CCW, Colory Community Wrestling. They have 5,000 plus followers on Facebook, and they sell out show after show, so you need to get in touch with him. And I will make sure, if you'd like to, Mr. Taylor, if you'd like to interview Mr. Jamdog, that I can make sure that happens for you. And he also wants to say, nice to meet you, Jam. Yes, and we can certainly do that for you.
Mr. Taylor.
Colory Championship _ wrestling on Instagram, and also Jam _ Dog Mac 13. He says, I have been in the business, yes, on and off for 25 years. And Mr. Taylor, yes, he has done that. He's got a big following on social media. And I want to make sure, actually, so Mr. Taylor can get in touch with Mr. Jamdog on Instagram, Jam _ Dog _ Mac _ 13. So Jam _ Dog _ Mac _ 13. So that's how you get in touch with him. And I'll make sure, if you'd like to interview Mr. Jamdog, Mr. Champion, Mr. Taylor, that I can certainly make that happen. But obviously, yeah, he'll be in touch. So there you go. Listen, there you go. He'll be in touch. So I'm glad that'll be the case. I hope that he does that. And I have no doubt that he will. That'll be a fun interview, because he interviewed one guy last weekend who was really boring. I mean, he was like root canal. You had one guy, and I'm supposed to have him back on the platform, and I'm going to say no comment other than I'm going to not incriminate myself and just say no comment further on that. But obviously, thank you everybody here for tuning in. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. And support CCW and the links below. And congratulations to Jamdog. We'll see everybody for more CCW coverage next week with Walker Wall Street, and then on May 1st with Taylor Truths. Good night, everybody.